Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a May 1st edition of the MSP Initiative, MSP Live. Uh, that's right, guys. It's May. That means 4 months out of the year are behind us. Hopefully, the year is on track, but it's finally getting nice outside, and we're going to be in summertime before you know it. And so check out mspinitiative.com. We have some stuff coming up, coming in June. We'll be headed over to Dublin with our friends from Kaseya and Datto for DattoCon Dublin. And then we'll be headed down to Tampa for an event called Flow with our friends Roost down in Florida. So those two things are definitely coming up. The event season's now definitely underway. I know this past week in Vegas, and we were just talking about Vegas before he came onto the show, was the Kaseya Connect Global event. So we'll talk a little bit about current events as we're coming up. We weren't there, but heard a couple things. So we'll talk about industry news. Other than that, it is May, so let's get into May things. For the first time on the show, we are bringing on Taylor from a company called Palisade. And Taylor, since this is your first time, and we always ask everybody who's come on, kind of give a little bit of a background about yourself personally, and your journey, how you got into the tech lane, and
Sure.
we'll go from there.
Yeah. So Taylor, one of the co-founders here at Palisade. Um, my journey into tech is varied and very long-winded, but oh, where do I start? I guess university. I had a degree in winemaking.
Wow.
So I graduated that, spent about 5 years in Napa making wine. Eventually decided to leave that and popped over to Asia
Hmm.
to cruise around for a while. And that's actually where I met the CEO, fellow co-founder of this company. We started a previous company. Um, that's why I met him. We had a recruiting software company, and I hopped in to help. We built it to really connect students with internships around the world. So, for example, a student from UC Berkeley, summer internship, we'd send them to Singapore, Manila, London, Barcelona for 3 months, get them the internship, have them all in one housing, all that stuff. And loved it, loved it. We are creating a really cool software to link the companies and link the students and creating real values. Internships are super important. I think travel is super important. We meet people and being able to combine that and give kids a really cool experience was valuable. So that was probably 2016 is when I started working with them. Ran that, moved up here to Montreal with them in 2019, and then we sold that company 2022, and then started Palisade about 6 months or a year after that.
Hmm.
So I'm mostly in kind of the talkie side. So on the phone, videos, video calls, all that good stuff. I just like being around people and meeting people, which is why I'm so appreciative you invited me here.
How does so that number one, very interesting concept. I mean, obviously part of the journey of going through, education and college and stuff and university probably slowed down a little bit during COVID as nobody was moving around. So I can imagine that was an interesting time for that company.
Yeah.
But hey, like no, we hear it all the time, right? Part of one of the benefits of either A, going away for school, or B, going abroad for school is to like
Hmm.
learn a little bit about the world and get out of your backyard and see how the thing spins. So all for it. We are no strangers here to planes, trains, automobiles, boats, lots of boats,
Walking,
walking for sure,
bikes,
scooters, yeah, for sure, for
anything.
sure. So how do you get then into like IT MSP land? Where how
Yeah,
where does
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of exit off the highway take you?
Yeah. So at our previous recruiting company, emails were a big part of our life.
Mm.
We were doing email campaigns to students. We were doing emails out to companies to, bring them in, match them, chat with them, open conversations. And, the technical configuration of emails was something that sucked then. And then sold the company, Started digging into it more. We heard about the regulation of Google and Yahoo, and we're like, that
Mm.
sounds pretty familiar. So looked into that, and we're like, it hasn't changed in 8 years. It's still copy and pasting records. It's still a pain in the ass to get the job done. There's no clear documentation. Everyone's documentation is contradictory. So that's where we went and how we got into Palisade. We built a company to fix that very small but very, very important, cybersecurity problem. So that's kind of the avenue we took to get here. And I love it. I love it. Cybersecurity and email security is something that's very interesting. It's all about communication, which I love. And yeah, it's a cool. The MSP channel is very interesting, very, very cool, very, very fun, very, very different than what I'm used to coming from like SaaS and direct software, right?
Yeah, I like to think of it as one very big high school with a schoolyard, but we'll talk about that maybe another time. So
Yeah.
so you're in Canada.
Yes.
Not
Montreal.
not trying to go super political here, but you guys just had an election. My
Uh-huh.
like, literally like 2 days ago, I think.
Yep.
Um, my
Yep.
understanding is the big topic of the day is like, commerce, and tariffs and borders.
Hmm.
From your perspective, you know, how does that change the way that this industry that we're working in right now function, right? Like had some people on from Canada, not too long
Hmm.
ago. You know, we talked about how companies up there function a little bit differently than companies in the US. From a software standpoint, I don't think anything changes, probably, from my understanding. But
No, luckily from software, well, a lot of things change, but it's not like there's a tariff direct on the software. So
sure,
that is, I guess, one benefit, but the political shakiness of the past 6 months, I think affects us all.
sure,
Just buying eggs or
yeah.
buying software or buying a TV. It's a wild, wild past couple months, that's for sure.
The whole egg thing still fascinates me. So one of the things that why I go down this road a little bit is, and I mentioned it on the last couple of my podcasts here, is like cybersecurity standards generally start from government, generally, right? Like I'm not saying there are
Mm,
others, right? But generally that's where they have come from. And obviously different people, different decisions, different rules, different standards, right? And the Google, Yahoo, Hotmail, Microsoft email stuff you're talking about really just kicked in literally in the last 8 months. Like they finally hit
yeah.
like a deadline where effectively if you weren't doing more than the absolute minimum, your mail just doesn't even get there.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so that's one where it wasn't a government entity that really set the standard. Like the email providers of the internet said, "Hey, we have decided as a collective we're doing this now." And it's interesting because spam email has been around for probably since the email started.
Yeah.
More recently, text messages and phone calls and robo dialing have really made it
Yep.
the attention of the government bodies. But emails, like, there's rules, there's laws, but like, it feels like it's been the wild, wild west for a long, long time.
I think it's still the Wild Wild West. So DMARC came about relatively recently. And then DMARC BIS, I think they're going to release, it's like an updated DMARC. They're looking to release it this year. But it's, leaders in the industry are getting together to create this list of rules for best practices. Um, but that's what it is. It's not a governing body. It's a group of professionals that do this in their spare time, pretty much, to write these rules, to create DMARC, to create SPF, to create DKIM, and then everyone kind of follows, either with in a short amount of time or a very, very long amount of time, like Microsoft. Microsoft's going live Monday, actually.
Hmm.
Their penalties. So right now, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Excuse me. So I guess the reality is that if your email never arrives, it's like, hey, if the electricity doesn't work, the light doesn't turn on. If you send an
Yeah,
email and it never makes it to destination, that's the problem, right?
yeah, Yeah, and
Um,
there's not a huge way to have visibility on that, right?
yeah,
The
that's for sure.
the electricity turns off, your light turns off, and you're like, all right, let's go fix the problem. But if an email goes into quarantine or doesn't get delivered, sometimes you have non-delivery messages, but the only one that knows is who received the email for the
Right.
most part.
So one of the big challenges, and like I'm thinking about the chair of the MSP for a second, we can also obviously think downstream to their end customer.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody's using, and we usually talk about this with like shadow IT, right? There's like 18,000 different SaaS applications that, somebody bought on their credit card, you didn't even realize it. And they all want to send out from your domain. And like I'm thinking like the CRMs, the ticketing systems, the
100%.
transactional emails from e-stores, the all of like I could go on and on and on. Even like QuickBooks and Zero, right? You want to send an email, yeah, if you want it to come from
Back
your
in the
company,
back in
right?
the day, it was copiers,
Yes, no,
copiers
that's
and
still
fax
a thing.
machines.
That's still a thing. That's
No
still a
way,
thing.
no way,
So
no way, no
no,
way.
no, 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 yeah, yeah. Like to the point where I was just in an MSP forum maybe 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and somebody was just bringing this up. We're like, hey, I still need an SMTP option for the old school copy machine that I'm.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then like what they do is they sign up for like a Gmail or like something, right, just to get it working.
Right, and add their IP. Wow,
So
that's
like that's very much still a
fascinating.
thing, by the way. Like the
Yeah,
newer copier machines let you sign into an Office 365 account, something like that, right? Now the
yeah.
older, yeah, copy machines and still some of the low end newer copier machines, to my understanding, still require good old fashioned SMTP.
Whew. Wow, that's fascinating.
So like you hear like the recommendations in this particular thread I brought up were like SMTP to go and
Yeah,
Mailgun and all these other ones, right? But bottom line is email has just been around for so long. We're adding sophistication to it, but in reality, it's not complicated by design, right? Like when they first started this thing, they didn't think about all of the challenges that happened 20, 30 years later. And like we're trying to like glue
100%.
stuff together now, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a post break fix, I guess, or current break fix, you can call it. It's the bad actors, spoofers, spammers, what do you want to call them? They're looking for loopholes, right? And so as a loophole comes up, people need to address it, fix it, put something in place to stop it. So it's a lot of band-aids on packing tape on packing tape, um, because you can't foresee all the possibilities how people would abuse a simple email system, kind of like, like how we had to do wax seals on letters back in the day because like, oh, you're gonna rip it open and take a peek.
Yeah, right.
So,
Hmm. I mean, one thing's for sure, especially with the people that are not working with an IT or consultant or an IT provider or even an IT person, right?
mhm,
MSP, whatever you want to call it. They'll go to Office365.com. They'll subscribe on their own, right? They'll try and follow the wizard, which, as you said, is maybe not English to most non-technical people. Or they'll go to Google to try and set up their business domain. And then bottom line is pretty like not too long ago, right? The records we're talking about, right? Like an A record or an MX record, it's copy and paste, right? Press save, wait a little bit, it works. The certificate based stuff, right? And some of the newer stuff,
mhm.
they don't understand it. Like
Fair,
it
because it's
doesn't
not
just,
it's not
it's not
clear.
auto click and go. It doesn't just work. Like they
Yeah,
don't get the higher level sophistication to it. And I feel like the email providers out there, like, will make you aware when, when there's a problem and they'll probably send you a knowledge base article somewhere, but there's no easy answer to, you know, just type in your GoDaddy information and it'll just do it for you. Most of the time, that's not a case.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And as you mentioned with the shadow IT, especially as we're all remote, like your marketing guys over in Seattle, he's like, oh, let's set up this SendGrid account, or we're gonna try a new CRM that sends emails for us, or HR in the backwoods. You're like, well, we're gonna use Sage. So nobody knows because no one communicates with each other, and the only way to do that from which is where DMARC is important, is being able to see all the emails that get sent through your domain, see if there's a green light or a red light, and then act accordingly, right?
What? for people who haven't been in like, I don't even know if I categorize it as the mass email situation, but like if you are sending from something like a MailChimp or a
Hmm?
HubSpot or one of those, they always talk about sender reputation. Can you talk about that for the person that's never heard of that before? Because the platform providers are very aware of this and they
Uh-huh.
try and say, hey, we're not going to let you send all the messages you want right away. Like, you're going to need to wait before we unlock you 100%. Maybe you can explain what this means.
Man, you got an extra hour we can tack on to the back end. But yeah, so your domain, the IP you're sending from, has a reputation. Tons of different things factor into it. One of them is how long it's been active. You know, one is how to all the ESPs or recipients view it and rank it and think about it. Another is, are you on blacklists or not? Have you been
Right.
flagged for spam? Everything now with AI filters, all of that's going into this big bucket of sender reputation. So if you have a good sender reputation with good configuration, much higher likelihood, as long as you're following best practices to not spam and cold email. You know, you have your subscribed list that's double opt in. Very, very high likelihood inboxes, very, very high likelihood you have a successful email campaign. Now, conversely, if you have bad setup or bad setup reputation because you made boo boo or you aren't a technical person to set it up correctly, you can start with a poor setup reputation or a good one, and the boo boos you make decrease it. So it's not like, oh, you have 100, you have a 90. It's not a score that's made up somewhere. It's more of just a broad term people apply to, do you follow best practices or do you not? And you're affected accordingly. And when
Hmm.
a lot of tools like SendGrid, HubSpot, there's the additional layer of shared IPs and dedicated IPs. Like dedicated IPs, you set up yourself. You're the sole owner of the reputation. Shared IPs like SFTPs, like Google inboxes, you know, or HubSpot and things like that. If you're in a shared IP, it's good and bad because now there's 100 people using it, and 100 people can positively or negatively affect it as well. So
So, who is the like, let me try and make it for the average person. So, it's like a credit score for your domain name, right?
yeah, yeah, we kind of have it called an email security score.
Okay.
Um, and we do it on a scale of 1 or 0 to 100. But
Okay. So,
that's
so
something
like
that we've created.
but the credit scores, like
Yep.
there's three companies that are tracking this concept, right? For an individual's credit score. Who's tracking email reputation? Is it everyone's doing it on their own, or is there a centralization somewhere?
Kind of three companies: Google, Microsoft, Apple. Used to be Yahoo, maybe not, right? So
Okay.
they're the most emails in the world. You know, I'm expanding a bit, but most emails go to one of those three inboxes. Whether it's a
Okay.
professional business, whether it's personal, they got the big old market share, so they're the ones. And as we see, adopted different policies,
Yeah.
they're the ones that have all that information and are the main ones that it would.
Okay. So two sub questions from there.
Yeah.
Can I go to Google, Amazon, and what was the other one?
Google, Microsoft,
Microsoft. Yeah.
and Apple.
Can I go to like their website and put my domain name and get my reputation out of them or no?
Ain't
No.
nobody tells you, my friend. So,
Hmm.
email deliverability, domain reputation is a black box. There are, APIs or tools. We even have one that's like a domain reputation checker. But what we're using is reach, like visualizing the IP and visualizing domain and running them through IP health checkers and domain health checkers that are you on a blacklist? Has this been reported to a third party? So the big three never. uh, show their cards, I guess.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
the second question was going to be, I assume, and I love analogies. We talked about the three credit bureaus. How about the three major wireless carriers in the United States, right? Like you have sub companies that create their brands on top of their networks, right? Like
Yep.
Boost Mobile or Mint Mobile or Metro PCS and whatever, right? And so do these smaller, providers API back to the big three to do something around this?
Not really, because you're also just, if you're a Google reseller, you're buying direct from Google.
Okay.
Companies like, let's say, SendGrid, or larger email marketing companies, Beehive and Mailchimp, they either have their own email infrastructure,
Hmm.
so like a giant SMTP, which most of them do, or they're built on AWS, which is kind of a similar idea, right?
Got it.
Or they subcontract, like SendGrid is like kind of baseline for a lot of different email marketing companies, and they do API to SendGrid. Um, but like for SendGrid, SendGrid's not receiving emails.
They're only sending.
They're pretty much only sending. Yeah, yeah,
So when it's all said and done, how does somebody know when they're having a problem? So when they're sending all their invoices out and they don't make it, then they know they have a problem? Is that the reality and probably the worst case scenario, right?
that's the worst case scenario when you ain't getting paid. When you ain't getting paid. Um, but that's why it's so important to stay ahead of the game and exceed the requirements to reduce and minimize the chance of that ever happening, right?
Hmm.
So Google, Yahoo, Microsoft have baseline requirements. You can exceed them. It does take a lot of work. That's why we create our company. That's why there's other competitors that have been around a little bit longer to one, improve compliance levels or your email security for your domain. And the side effect or benefit of that is one, securing your domain and making it possible for someone to spoof you and say, "Hey, I'm George." Send something to your employee that says, "Hey, here's my new bank account info. Route your money there." As we all know, that
Mhm.
happens quite a bit,
It
either with
does.
BEC or direct from domain. DMARC can block the direct from domain, um, but it's so important to exceed that because the side effect is better deliverability.
So does your service, um, is it just for the initial part, or is there an ongoing component to help things? Like I want to get my monthly credit report check. Hey, you're good. Your credit score didn't go down. Everything's, like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So we're software that automates the configuration setup on the front end with AI, and then we are actively receiving all your DMARC reports. I don't know your background on DMARC, but Microsoft, Google sends DMARC reports to XYZ email. We route
Mhm.
to us, for example. We process those, give you a visualization tool with a report, and then if something's misconfigured, we fix it with AI. So I
How
like to
often does that report come out?
daily,
Daily. Wow.
daily, daily. So usually like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m., depending
Hmm.
on where and when it's generated. So we utilize all that to fix your misconfigurations in the front end. And then we can see once you're fully locked down, like, hey, these 50 people from this IP, they're trying to spoof your domain and they're sending emails to either your employees or your customers,
Right.
or doing some sort of let's ruin this guy's sending reputation if they send like, 1 million, but that's
I didn't even think about that. Like, hey, if I'm trying to give you a hard time, I tank your sender reputation so that your messages don't go out. That could be a
that's
problem.
right. That could be a problem. It's not like I don't know how you can make money doing that. Maybe if you like ransom them, but
I feel like
if you're,
it's a malicious action.
yeah, like you cut someone off on the freeway and they know who you are, they could do that if you don't lock down your DMARC, right? And
Wow.
block all those emails from being received. So
Hmm.
security wise, super important. And then, like I said, all the security work goes in. We're monitoring it through over time and maintain your high deliverability and security.
Okay. All right. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, we could talk about cybersecurity and it's been talked about for a long time, continues to be. But bottom line is, I feel like more than 50, and this is just a George, percentage. I have not researched it. Do not come and fact check me, but feel free to send me information if I'm right. Um, I feel like more than 50% of the incidents that occur are human being related and they bamboozled somebody using email because it's the
I think,
easiest thing to do.
yeah, I think based on the IC3, phishing and spoofing was the number one reported issue in cybersecurity. I just looked up this morning, 20, 25%, something like that. So yeah, you're right.
I mean,
In
listen,
2024.
think about this. If I want to spam somebody via text message, I have to try and find people's phone numbers. It's a little bit harder. I know there's services out there with it, that go and scrape the internet to try and look. It's not as easy, but emails are much more easy to find than phone numbers, right?
Yeah.
And so if
Or
I could,
manufacturer,
right?
you know,
Yeah. So, or I could,
T Tabusa, Taylor dot Tabusa, Taylor Tabusa, you run
exactly, I
those
can
through,
guess it, right?
kind of
Like,
like a little a password stealer
or just, hey, I'm just trying to get anyone to get a message and get fooled.
yeah.
So that I go and click sign in and then I got you, right? Bottom line is, um, with email being the low hanging fruit, if we would, like you
Hmm.
left your door unlocked and wide open, so somebody just walked in, um, chances are they're gonna start there first. I'm not saying they won't go down more sophisticated paths, but why try, to pick a lock when I can just walk through a wide open door?
Yeah, it's dollars and cents for us. It's dollars and cents for them. It's cheap to email. It's cheap to find emails, and it's a numbers game. Like you can send a million emails in a month. If five of those people send you 10 grand, it's a lot of money.
And that's the thing, right? Like, you could sign up for Amazon's email service. I think it's called
It's
Simple
SES,
Mail, SMS, SES, Simple Email
SES.
Service, right?
Yeah.
You could sign up for Amazon's SES subscription. Once you're approved, you can send a million emails pretty cheaply. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Or who knows? Every country probably has a underground SendGrid or a Black Hat SendGrid or a Black Hat SES or a Black Hat this and that, where they set up their own SMTP and send and ship for a month and then kill it and start a new one.
It's crazy. So talk to me a little bit then more about, you said Microsoft's finally, hitting a deadline. Like, what's happening now? What's the current expectation? And is there anything coming down the pipe that we don't know about, or that maybe we're just not realizing has been announced?
Yeah, yeah. So Microsoft Yahoo or Google and Yahoo last year, Microsoft announced it like a week ago, and penalties were coming. Monday, required DMARC records to be in place. Bare
Okay.
minimum, you need a DMARC record for large senders. And what they call large senders, I think all three is if you've ever sent more than 5,000 emails in a day, I believe. Which is, relatively easy if you have one newsletter. Boom.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe people technically don't need it, but anything you can do from the configuration side makes them happy, right? So that's why it's so important to go beyond their requirements. But right now, basically at a high level, it needs to pass one or two security checks. One's called an SPF, one's a DKIM, and then you need to have a DMARC record. So it will pass DMARC.
Hmm.
So
So
that's
what's the penalty you keep referring to?
penalty means if it doesn't hit the requirements and there's a little chunky list, but if it fails requirements, you ain't getting delivered. Straight up, I believe they just adjusted it this morning, I think, or last night with new requirements, but you're going to receive a 550 delivery error. I forgot the exact code, but yeah, they're not going to deliver it, and they're going to say, hey, you didn't meet our requirements.
Interesting. So that's the current expectation. So if you're sending a message to a Microsoft account, Monday, you may be waking up to a bad day if this is not already handled.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And so Yahoo and Google already put this into place. Sounds like last year. Microsoft's a little late to the game. So now all three will be on the same page. So what's
Mhm.
coming down the pipe? Do you know of anything that's like this, but we're not at the deadline yet?
Yeah. So right now, you just need a DMARC record.
Hmm.
It could be a DMARC record that doesn't mean anything and has no value, but you need a record to show that you added a record. We expect stronger requirements to come probably in the next year or two.
Okay.
So there's kind of three policy levels. One's P none, which is if all this stuff fails, don't do anything. Next one is quarantine. If
Mhm.
an email fails the security checks, put it in my, in their quarantine folder. The highest level is reject, and that's if this email fails, don't accept it. So it sounds like a bad thing because you're saying, oh, put my email in spam or the quarantine, but you have to do work to get there. So you make sure your tools are configured correctly. So basically, any email that does fail is a bad email. It's someone trying to spoof or spam, or maybe it's a little shadow IT tool that pops up from marketing west side and you need to fix it, right? Because they're like, hey, that marketing email's not going through, or this HR email's go through. So there's a reason to continuously monitor as well. But that's what we expect is coming, stronger regulations.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And for the people who aren't familiar with what a DMARC record does,
Hmm.
so let me just give you a simple scenario. I'm an MSP. I'm using my ticketing system, my accounting system, and my CRM system.
Hmm.
All three are separate SaaS companies that I subscribe to. All three send email out using my email domain.
Yep.
What do I have to, and again, I'm talking to my lowest common denominator. Do I have to make this DMARC record for all three systems?
Mm-hmm. So in your example, actually, four tools need to be authenticated. Your Microsoft tenant, the three
Hmm.
tools you mentioned.
Hmm.
So they need to be added to what's called the SPF. That's kind of like a bouncer is at a bar, and are you on the guest list or not? It's like, hey, you're on the list. Then the second one that does need to be verified is called the DKIM key, and that's a public-private key code. And that's more of like the wax seal I was mentioning,
Hmm.
where it's proving that the email has not been changed en route from originator to sender. So as it goes through routing protocols, a lot of times it goes through ESGs. That's a way to verify no one's tampered with it. It's tampered with it. So those two things for best practices need to be, or your tools need to be approved and verified in both of those two areas for best practices. And then you create one DMARC policy, which tells everyone what to do when emails do not pass those one or both of those security checks.
Got it. So,
Mhm.
but those things are separate of DMARC, right?
So SPF and DKM are the two security checks.
Yeah.
DMARC is the policy. Yeah. So they are, DMARC is built on SPF and DKM.
Okay. So
Yeah,
in
yeah.
reality, the DMARC record is specific to my domain name, georgesit.com. I'm not necessarily creating multiple of those right now. I'm just creating one.
Uno.
So in the future, give me a scenario where I would need more than one of those.
Technically, you could make them per subdomain. So marketing.palisade.email, but parent policy on palisade.email, you could just add a little code saying apply to all.
Got it, like
So,
a catch-all type thing.
so I don't think you'll ever need more than one DMARC record, but you need to manage it and configure it well and carefully.
Got it.
So
So
that's kind of the
let me
value.
give you one scenario though. What
Sure.
happens if I switch from Microsoft email to
Hmm.
Google email as my primary email? Do I have to then change that, or can I just bring it along with me?
Big question, but at a simple level, let's say you have your four tools, one of them is Microsoft, you're switching that out to Google.
Hmm.
The DMARC record doesn't have to change, but I would recommend that it does, and I can get into that later. But you would need to de-verify or should de-verify Microsoft in SPF and DKIM, then add Google, verify that in SPF and DKIM. Um, why I say the DMARC record should be possibly changed is,
Hmm.
for example, if you've done all your homework, you've done all the work to get your DMARC policy to that reject level or that quarantine level, there could be a lapse when you're moving it where those emails are not verified. And now you need to, in that short time period, hope no emails go out while it's unverified. So ideally, you roll back the security for a couple hours, fix your Google, double check it tomorrow, and go back up.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes
But
sense.
still a single DMARC record. You just have to change uh, pieces in it.
So, other than the setup part of it, what are the things that would be misconfigurations that you would see in this daily report that you're reviewing that would say, "Hey, there is a problem." What kind of scenarios would categorize as a problem?
Great question. Great question. Number one is someone trying to abuse my domain?
Hmm.
That's a very important piece of information and a very important part of what we do. Number two would be the shadow IT, adding a little this and that, a little salt and pepper on top of your email sending configuration, which happens much more often than would like. So those are two big ones as well, and a great way to really have good visibility on those. And then the third is configuration changes. So there are rules and regulations on the DMARC side that'll soon be changing. As I mentioned, DMARC BIS, they're planning for a release this year, which will change a lot of this. And tools, the tools you're sending from can and do change how they verify their email sending for you. So those are two big areas where there can be changes relatively often in your email stack.
Got it. And then who's they are making changes? Is it the big
Ah,
three or somebody else?
yeah, as I mentioned, it's like a group of professionals in the email community. They created the RFCs. What is that? IEFT?
I was like, there's got to be somebody somewhere making all these
Yeah,
rules up.
yeah. Yeah, IETF is a group that pretty much creates all the email rules that we know and love or know and hate. Um,
And so
and
this is
I
like a nonprofit, not
think
government
so. I think it's an
body.
association that does it. Yeah, yeah.
Got it. And that's coming it sounds like that's coming soon, right? In the next year-ish.
Yeah. I think it's even done with the final reviews. So they just all have to, I guess, vote and give it the green light to push it. But I've heard that's coming out this year.
Got it. So that's interesting. So basically what's happened over time, just to kind of make it all make sense, is we had email with no security.
Yep.
Somebody realized, hey, I can do bad things. They slowly started layering on things, right? And
Yeah.
DMARC, DKIM, and SPF, like those were the three things that got added to email, which has been around for a long time. Now, obviously, the platforms have constantly enhanced their stuff, right? And they've done cool
Yeah.
things, and Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, and Amazon, right, continue to build things around these email platforms. But the way email gets sent, the way the electricity goes across the line, that's largely not changed.
Yes. Correct. Correct. Yeah. It hasn't really changed in a very, very long time. Yeah.
just like I hear, death to the phone call. It's like, oh, death to email. It's like email's not going
Mhm.
anywhere. I don't know why they keep saying that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, cold calls is dead, or cold email or marketing emails are dead, or email communication is dead. Let's replace it with something. It's, well, that thing's gonna have the same exact issues.
Yeah, text messages, which then get people even more salty about them.
Yeah,
So that's very interesting. So an MSP would come to Palisade and say, "Hey, I want to use this for me. I want to use this for my end customers."
that's right.
How's the program structured for them?
It's structured per domain. So we have flat fee per domain. Obviously, the more domains you buy, the lower that fee is. And then you can resell it or factor it in. It's a really cool product. Most of the tools right now were either niche down for enterprise or niche up from SMB. We built ours multi-tenancy, one pane of glass specifically for the MSP market. So it's lean, it's fast, which I like. We kind of SaaSified it because we're from SaaS, the SaaS world. So I think it looks pretty, it looks nice, and we're tackling the problem in a different way. I like to say a lot of what MSPs do is kind of like I call it the triple D framework. It's number one is detection. So you have to detect the problem, find the problem, get the data, see, oh, there is a problem. Number two is documentation. You need to find the documentation, search through your IT glue or, your kudu or your documentation to find the answer. And then three is kind of get done, which is where you do the work. And where we really excel is taking detection and documentation out of the equation. So we have an AI-powered detection remediation platform that detects the problem, gives you the solution, and then you just need to do the work. So
Okay.
it's a
So now that we
cool
got
little tool.
all of that out, let me try some topics that I bring up on a regular, and let's see what your opinion is.
Sure.
What am I worried that you're using AI and that it could decide one day that it doesn't we talked about in the last call. It's like, hey, AI hallucination. Like, is the AI engine you're using going to change its mind? How consistent is it going to give me results?
Good call. Good call. Good call. We're using machine learning and data analysis right now. We don't have an AI agent. You still have to click yes or no to, let's say, the tickets that get surfaced. You have full
Mhm.
power. Um, so based on pattern recognition, we are showing you, hey, this is an issue that we think, here's the solution that we know, and then a tech can verify it. Because before you need to look at graphs and numbers and percentages and passes and fails and does this align? Is this unaligned? So even when I was deep, 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 deep in it, it would take me like 15, 20 minutes, like staring at this one like email line, like, is that a real email? Like now I gotta call my customer and see if they're using this tool. It's like, God, it's another 10 minutes. Then they're gabbing, it's another 5 or 8 minutes after that. So yeah, it's interesting. But to answer your question, we're not using an agent, so it's very, very, very stable. We're just using the millions emails that are coming into us and processing them to surface the most likely issue with your configuration.
Okay, since we're on the topic of AI agents, let's just
Yeah.
go right there right now. I posted something maybe 48, not even 2 days ago, 3 days ago, where I was like,
Uh-huh.
hey, it was a Fortune article where they're like, hey, this startup SaaS company, which I think we can both relate to, put an AI
Yeah.
support agent out there and it gave them absolutely just crazy response. And then people started canceling. And then finally realized, hey, I'm getting all these cancellations. What's going on? They go and find out that it just made up the answer. And then people got upset and they canceled. That's real world, right? Like, that's not a
That's real world.
theoretical. They're
No,
reporting on
that's
an actual, right? Like,
Grok. Grok was talking back against Elon Musk. Like there's a lot of issues. A lot of issues.
so if an MSP were to talk to you and they were to ask you, do you advise right now today on May 1st, 2025, for me to put this type of technology on the front lines, what would your answer be? Is it safe to do that, or should I
Palisade
experiment,
technology
or what?
or Palisade
No,
or AI
an
technology
AI
or
agent.
AI agent. Oh boy. Wow. Like we've thought about AI agents, right? I bet you've thought about it at your company. I don't know, man. I don't know if they're ready unless you either train your own specific model and don't use like just a straight Claude 3.7,
Mhm.
but train on your specific documentation with your rules and your regulations, or make your own, which is very, very costly. Um, there, there's too much room for error, right now. So that's what I think, and I think there are ways to mitigate that and things you can do when you create it and make sure you don't release a beta version. But I think soon, but right now it seems a little scary. What do
Okay.
you what do you think, George?
I don't think I'm going to argue your point. I would probably agree with everything you just said. Let me go to another topic around the word AI that's pretty common now. There's been a lot of talk about the copyright law protection and how AI really doesn't care about it, right? It goes out, it just sucks in
Legal or
things
not,
into the
they just
vacuum.
eat.
Yeah. And then I've seen I'm pretty sure I saw a comment from somebody from OpenAI who's like, this will literally shut down the whole thing. Like if you know, like if you're going to enforce these copyright rules on how AI is, it will literally just put a stop to the entire effort. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if you've heard that. What are your thoughts?
Sounds plausible. If they have no more information to eat, it can't learn and change, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can't learn and evolve. So it would definitely put a immediate stop to, let's say, the learning aspect. But then you can pump in your training, your knowledge, and your information to focus it. But man, yeah, that'd be crazy because they used to just munch away at the entire Reddit forums.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they started before it got released, and then Reddit said no thanks. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
Um,
I would have to say it probably would stop. That would
yeah,
be a
it's
big roadblock.
very interesting. I feel like we almost need to be careful with how things are marketed. Um, in your case, you're using, a lot of machine learning and you're saying, hey, it's a type of AI, but I'm not
Mhm.
using a large language model that a
That's
Microsoft
correct.
or an OpenAI is putting out there. And I think some people have a hard time understanding the differences and the lines seem to be very blurry. Um, if you
Yeah,
if you were to advise, our, sandbox, our IT MSP community, what's the right way to say that? What would your recommendation be?
that's a good question. We say AI because it's AI. You're gathering a crap ton of data, you're processing it, and you're outputting, solutions or outputs based on it. I think as you kind of surmise or pointed at, colloquially, AI is chatbot, right? Chat agents, like GPT, Grok, or stuff. So it's it's hard. It's hard because we're using machine learning data analysis now to process all information, which is AI, and we are going to move into maybe a small language model or large language model to get more results out of it, right? To get more recommendations out of it. So I don't know if I can answer that question. That's a super interesting question.
It's a tough one for sure. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the last big topic that comes around, in my opinion, on this AI, highway lane that we're on is, hey, where's my data being processed, right? Like, I know, like,
Mhm.
for example, in Canada, if you're doing business with the government or somebody who's a government like subcontractor, they want that data to reside in the borders. A lot of people now in their cybersecurity questionnaires ask if you are using AI, which AI are you using, and where's that AI data being processed? So I think it's an important question because it's being asked.
Sure.
I
Sure.
assume that if it's already on cybersecurity questionnaires, the cyber insurance people will eventually ask this question too. So, what is the answer for your company?
For our company, we're on data centers in the northeast of the US. Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
running things privately within your own bubble.
AWS.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So like this is now a question that everybody has to ask their upstream vendors, right? Are you
Mm-hmm.
using AI? If so, what kind of AI is it? And then where is that data processing occurring? I know, like, even if you go into the ChatGPT and Grok and all those guys, you can just be asking the collective model questions. You
Yes.
can also pay to like limit your model to just your account, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You absolutely can. It's very, very expensive to limit it and be your own separate hub. And I think you do need to probably host it somewhere separately to make sure, there's no ingress or egress, kind of like I guess old servers where if you unplugged it, it had no access to the internet anymore, which kind of, coincidentally is probably what they're going to need to do with cyber in the US government in, the next couple of years. Now that's been deconstructed. I assume it's going to be a couple year program to build it back up, right? Who
I mean,
knows?
it's funny. I always see the memes where it's like, in case of cyber attack, cut all the cables. I mean, it's funny, but it's not too far away from what we're talking about.
No, no, because yeah, you can host it on the cloud, but you walk over to your data center, you dig up the cables and you chop them. Not that you could do that for large data centers, but you have server room, you host it.
Yes, the
Yeah.
kill switch.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here. Where do people find more information on Palisade? How do they get a hold of you, Taylor? Or what is the right channel for them to learn more?
Totally, totally. You can reach out on LinkedIn, Taylor Tabusa, Tabusa. There's only one of me, so easy to find. um, or our website, palisade.email. If you just type in Palisade in Google, you're going to get the Hyundai Palisade. So make sure you throw in something extra at the end, Palisade email, Palisade DMark, and you'll get to us. That's a that's a fun hurdle
Right?
for us.
I
For
mean,
us,
you probably thought about that when you registered that domain, right?
yeah, yeah. Uh, but man, I don't think we really put it together. It's like, oh, we're Palisade email, Palisade DMark, and it's like, oh, we're going up against Hyundai Palisade truck.
We all learned the hard way for sure. Are we
Yeah.
going to see you guys at any events coming up in the industry anytime soon?
Hopefully, end of this year. As I was telling Jen earlier, this is a kind of year one and a half of us. So we are still growing, building our software, and that's really what we're focusing our time and energy on
Mhm.
to build the best technical software for you guys or for MSP guys. And man, events are pricey.
Right? It, you know,
Yeah, as I'm
it's
sure you know, George.
I know very well. I need another hour to just talk about this topic. Well, listen, anything we can do to help you guys get your message out, definitely, we're happy to, you know, all ships rising thing, all tides rise, however that goes. But definitely, we'll keep in touch and hopefully we'll see you out on the road at some point. But a very cool platform, it sounds like. And quite frankly, I didn't I'll be totally honest. I had no clue a DMARC report goes out every day. I had no clue it tells you if somebody is abusing your domain name as a bad actor trying to do bad things. And quite frankly, I would say if I had talked to 10 people in a row out of our industry, MSP land, I'd say 9 of them probably are in my boat, that they had no clue that this was a thing. And so, number one, now you've learned something in this session. Number two,
Hmm.
hey, need to be reviewed on a regular because then you can get ahead of somebody doing something bad. And that is the first problem. You don't even know you have a problem and can acknowledge that you have a problem until somebody explains to you things, right? Facts that
Yeah,
explain to you that
yeah.
there is a problem. And then you can then say, oh, yes, you're right. I
There is
agree.
a problem. Now bring me a solution. It's the triple D framework, my friend.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Taylor, this is great. Nice talking to you here today. This, guys, this session was absolutely recorded. You'll find it on mspinitiative.com. I'll end up on the podcatchers, the YouTube page, all that good stuff. So go hit mspinitiative.com and it'll be there under sessions. Definitely hit up Palisade, Palisade .email. That is their whole domain. There's no .com, it's .email. Next thing you know, people are going to just start putting .ai behind everything. Nope, .email on this one. Go check it out
Hmm.
and check them out online. And hey, worst case scenario, you've learned something. You didn't buy anything, but hey, it sounds like we need to
No
pay
worries here.
attention. Sounds like we need to pay attention to this lane. Have a good one, Taylor. Have a good one, everyone else. Catch you on the next one.
All right, guys, take care. Thank you for having me, George.
Have a good one. No worries.